It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister.
Boris Johnson is stepping down as the UK's Prime Minister, unable to overcome a string of scandals around unlawful parties during the pandemic and broader questions about his integrity. In less than 3 years, he's gone from this to this.
Apologies to everybody for the misjudgments that I've made, that we may have made.
Johnson enjoyed a steady rise from journalist to London Mayor to Prime Minister, despite gaffes that sometimes led to accusations of racism, sexism and spreading misinformation.
I'm sorry for the offence that I have caused, but I will continue to speak as directly as I can.
Johnson was once considered the golden boy of the Conservative Party. So how did he climb so high, and why did his premiership fall apart? To answer that question, we need to understand what sort of politician Boris Johnson is, which means going right back to the start.
What are you not ashamed of, though, Boris?
Whatever there is not to be ashamed of.
Back when he was a political columnist in the 90s, Johnson's early appearances on the BBC's satirical current affairs show Have I Got News for You brought him national recognition and endeared him to the British public.
That has been one of his big selling points, is that people like Boris Johnson and find him amiable and fun, and that served him very well during his career.
I want to congratulate you all in turning up in such fantastic numbers to this rally. It's really fantastic.
His celebrity status made him one of the most recognisable politicians in the UK. This helped him get elected to Parliament in 2001, and 7 years later he became the first Conservative to win the race for Mayor of London.
I know that there will be many whose pencils hovered for an instant before putting their X in my box.
As mayor, he found success focusing on issues such as crime and public transport. He also revelled in promoting the London 2012 Olympics, including the infamous moment he got stuck on a zip wire. But Johnson had loftier ambitions.
We should take the chance now, as a country, to take back control. Take back control, take back control, take back the democratic control.
In 2016, Johnson was back in Parliament and surprised many by going against the leader of his own party by backing Brexit.
I will be advocating vote leave.
He quickly became a leading voice in the campaign for the UK to leave the European Union, which then won.
The British people have spoken, and the answer is we're out.
The Brexit referendum and the following negotiations with the EU ended the careers of two Conservative Prime Ministers and paved the way for Johnson to take power.
There will be people around the place who will question the wisdom of your decision.
In October 2019, he called a general election and led the Conservatives to their biggest victory since 1987, allowing the swift passage in December of his divorce deal with the EU.
I think Boris will get the Brexit done, and people will not regret Boris being the next, our new Prime Minister.
His pitch to the public was, I'm going to use Brexit, this divorce with the EU, to sort of reset the way that we do politics in the UK and bring areas of the UK that had long been forgotten about or brushed over by his predecessors back to the forefront and treat blue-collar workers better.
Johnson, though, would not be able to bask in his electoral victory for long.
The number of cases of COVID-19 outside China has increased 13-fold.
It's now a global pandemic.
In 2020, Johnson was faced with leading the country through the coronavirus pandemic, which has so far caused the deaths of more than 180,000 people in the UK. The Prime Minister was criticised for not acting quickly enough to prevent the spread of the virus and for not taking it seriously from the start.
I was at a hospital the other night where I think there were actually a few coronavirus patients, and I shook hands with everybody.
At the end of March, Johnson announced that he had mild symptoms of the virus.
I've taken a test that has come out positive.
And was hospitalised just over a week later. He spent 7 nights in the hospital, including 3 in intensive care.
The pandemic in some ways played both to Johnson's great strength and his great weakness. The great strength was that he's an excellent communicator, and he really managed to rally the country behind him and also pushed a very successful vaccine program. The downfall was that he is a natural libertarian and is known for being somewhat indecisive, and so Britain sadly suffered one of the highest death tolls in Europe from the disease, in part because Mr. Johnson was very reticent to lock the country down.
Johnson faced backlash when he admitted to attending a party in Downing Street during a period when people could only meet one other person outside to prevent the spread of coronavirus.
Mr. Speaker, I want to apologise. I believed implicitly that this was a work event.
Some Conservative lawmakers defended Johnson, but many people across the country who had abided by the strict lockdown rules felt betrayed by the Prime Minister.
I don't trust him anymore. I'm sorry.
Neither do I, no. There's no trust.
I think it's an absolute disgrace, to be quite honest with you.
At this point, I think he's kind of lost his credibility as Prime Minister.
A police investigation into the events resulted in the Prime Minister being fined, though he resisted demands to resign.
I've paid the fine and I once again offer a full apology.
The revelations proved to be the beginning of the end for Johnson. In June, he was booed by a crowd as he arrived for a special Jubilee service of Thanksgiving for the Queen. And only a few days after that, he was subject to a vote of no confidence by his own party. He survived but was badly bruised. Around a third of Conservative lawmakers voted against him.
It's a good result.
I certainly think it is, because don't forget that when I first stood to be leader of the Conservative Party in 2019, I didn't get anything like that much support from my colleagues in Parliament. We're building that.
Meanwhile, Johnson was also accused of mishandling a series of scandals around Conservative lawmakers' misconduct.
I think it was a mistake, and I apologise for it. I think in hindsight it was the wrong thing to do.
And the party lost local and national elections, casting doubts over his popularity with voters. In July, a flurry of cabinet resignations, including the Treasury Chief and Health Secretary, rocked the government.
We have reason to question the truth and integrity of what we've all been told. And at some point, we have to conclude that enough is enough. I believe that point is now.
In the end, Boris Johnson was undone because he was no longer viewed as an electoral asset by MPs, but a liability. And the minute that lawmakers saw that Johnson was no longer likely to win them elections, they jettisoned him.